Today on Locked On Rockies, there's no doubt about it. The San Francisco Giants own the Colorado Rockies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 20th day of May in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. Talking Rockies baseball, free and streaming here on your favorite streaming services, as well as on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can follow the show. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to Rockies baseball. Fortunately, we got to go from our week of fun into a weekend that was not so great for the Colorado Rockies, but one that was a completely unexpected for, as the Giants just dominate the Rockies. Plain and simple, the Giants have just been such a pain for the Rockies here. They have been so good at handling them, and it was on full display. Now, the Rockies certainly had chances, and we're going to dive into some of Thomas Harding's writing about this. But the one thing I will take, the first takeaway, I suppose, is that these games, even though the scores, especially in the first two, don't mimic it, if things bounce the right way for the Rockies, it's a different story. So we're going to dive into that, recap the series, and of course, go from there. But before we dive into everything, just want to, again, thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Shout outs to all of our everydayers out there. I am Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. Been following this team my entire life and been bringing you your daily podcast now for 4 seasons here. So Rockies winning streak is snapped on Friday, and unfortunately it snapped after the Rockies get exactly what you're hoping for in terms of a start for the Rockies in San Francisco. 3 runs in the first inning there, and starting off hot. Everything's looking good. Unfortunately, in this game, the pitching came back. The starting pitching in this series was just not up to snuff. And this is what happens when you're going with that part of the rotation as well. That we know that Quantrill and Gomber have been solid this year. The rest, it's hit or miss. I mean, during the winning streak, we had good performances from everybody in the rotation, and it helped, but the pitching in this series just it was a problem. The Rockies gave up 10 runs in the first game. They gave up 8 runs in the second game. And then they were 14 runs in the second game. I think I stopped watching when they gave up 8 on Saturday. And then another 4 on Sunday here. The Rockies were outscored 28-10 in this series against San Francisco. Not going to get it done. And this is a San Francisco team. This is a San Francisco team that was banged up, bruised. Going into this series, they had just put Young-Hoo Lee, I think, on the season-ending IL with shoulder surgery. They have a whole bunch of different things, and a guy that, once again, was a no-name, a guy that wasn't doing anything, just comes up and absolutely torches the Rockies. I guess he was doing stuff the series before the Rockies in his week of dominance and being called up. I'm trying to blank on it. Matos, I think, was the guy doing all the damage. And then, of course, Matt Chapman is really, really good. It doesn't matter. The Giants could put 7 players out there, and they'd still probably beat the Rockies. Just when you're looking at the history of late, this team has just been dominated by San Francisco. In the last 20 games against San Francisco, the Rockies are 5-15. It's insane when you think about how good San Francisco has been against the Rockies. Rockies have now this season alone lost 5 of 6 games against San Francisco. You're only gonna see them 2 more series here, so you don't have that much time to make up that record against a team that was struggling. This was when you're looking at the offensive numbers, these were 2 offenses that had some similar numbers. The Rockies had a better batting average and a couple of other things by, a short margin when we compared the 2 teams leading into the series. San Francisco, man, they play Colorado and it is just go time. It is just they are ready to just handle business. They are ready to dominate there. I mean, it is. I don't know what it is. It's just one of those matchups. It's the Giants and it is the Dodgers that I absolutely despise watching because I just don't feel confident in them. And even with like this Giants team right now, like the one that's dealing with all the injuries and such, like they shouldn't be such a formidable foe for the Rockies, especially when you consider the fact that the Giants are a below 500 team for now. They're working their way back up there. I mean, I've often thought that they were underperforming, but there's no. It just doesn't seem like the Rockies really have much of an answer ever for San Francisco, and I don't quite know what it is because, like I said, that was an offense that was scuffling. And I know the Rockies rotation, but to bounce back and to be that to get blown up that much after everyone in the rotation was being that successful, it's a little disheartening, especially now with the fact that the Giants, they hadn't won 3 games in a row all year. They hadn't well, there's their first series sweep there. But, man, it was just crazy. They just could not get Matos out. They could not get certain players out. And once the ball started rolling downhill, it just kept accumulating and adding the snow there. But when you have an opportunity to take down good teams, you got to capitalize on that, especially when you're rolling it. And the Rockies certainly had opportunities in this one. They had a bunch of opportunities in this game here where you think that it might come alive. And even when things were getting a little out of hand in some of them, they kept putting on runners in scoring position. They kept driving in, they had some opportunities, or at least were flirting with some stuff. But when you look at actually how bad the numbers are for the runners in scoring position, that was a true issue with the Rockies here. And of course, the big baddie of them all that returned this series was the strikeouts. All of the bad stuff that outside of good defense or a bad defense, because the Rockies did play some great defense at points in this series. Ryan McMahon, especially Ezekiel Tovar making some great plays up there. The defense was strong, but the Rockies still striking out, not getting distance from their starting pitchers here. I want to read you from Thomas Harding's Rockies lament losses as Giants finish sweep on MLB.com here. And this is down below the starter blues have come back around section here. Starting pitching ranged from solid to outstanding during the winning streak, but none of the 3 starters, Ryan Feltner, Ty Block, and Hudson, made 5 innings against the Giants. Hudson wasn't sharp, but he was plenty resourceful enough to hold the Giants through 4. Hudson had been dogged by walks in previous outing. He had just 1 going into the 5th. Hudson also jumped to an 0-2 count against Luciano, but missed out on the next 4 pitches, all breaking balls. I felt like he was over the heater a little bit, and that was the right pitch to go with, the 4-ball slider, Hudson said. I can look back at it a million times, but that's just what I felt like it was the right thing. The inning devolved into a nightmare of contact to wrong places. Levante Wade Jr.'s RBI single to tie the game at 1 was solid, but Etherio Estrada grounder forced shortstop Tovar to make a good play for 1, but a double play was impossible, and a Chapman infield single drove in a run. McMahon also boofed that big play, or 1 play there late in that finale that didn't help. Hudson lasted just 4 2/3 innings on a day when it looked like as if he would have enough pitches to go deeper. If the starter doesn't go 6 innings, the Rockies are in trouble. I mean, and I think you can say that for other pitchers too, but the Rockies especially. What was so good during the winning streak was the starters were going late enough in ball games where you could get there, and they were having some success. That's what's been so good about Austin Gomber and Cal Quantrill is they've been able to go deeper in games while being effective at that. It's when we can be confident enough in Quantrill and Gomber. Again, I understand where they rank compared to other ones, but I'm not until they have a bad start. Their hot streak is still going right now, and you got to count on those guys to get things going and get things right for this series in Oakland. You have the right guys starting on the bump against a team in Oakland that you should have a good chance at beating even on the road. The A's have been better this year, but they're certainly not a dominant force of nature out there. They're 19-30 on the season, so they're certainly a factor. There's certainly still a team that can win some ball games. But if the Rockies go in there and handle business, they're going to close. They're going to shorten that gap between those two teams a little bit as well. But it's going to start with the pitching. It's going to start with how much these the pitchers, the Rockies can count on these pitchers, especially those back of the rotation guys. That's going to continue as the Rockies go on. Not a ton of confidence in Feltner, Block, and I'm dry. And Hudson. I mean, Dakota Hudson looked all right yesterday, but nothing too fancy. So if the Rockies can get back to their starters going deep in games, that's a huge sign. But there were two other factors in this series, ones that we've talked about before that were killers for the Rockies: runners in scoring position and strikeouts yet again. Let's talk about that coming up here in segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked on Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Policygenius. You know, insurance, especially life insurance, can get a little confusing. So why not use Policygenius so you can make sure that you provide your family with a financial safety net starting today? With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. You want to make sure that you are taking care of your loved ones and you have the right coverage that you need for any situation. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. That's right. You don't have to go through this alone. They got great staff that's going to make sure that you know that you are getting the right plan and right policy for you. Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. We're also brought to you by Yahoo Finance. You want to get in on the investing game. You want to make sure that you are keeping track of your investments. You want to make sure that you have the right tools available for you. And guess what? Yahoo Finance is exactly that. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in just one place? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend your entire portfolio with confidence. You want to sell on this? Do you want to make a move on that? Why not use the resources, tools, and staff available at Yahoo Finance to make sure that you are making the best calls for you and your money? It's your money and you want to grow it. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. Now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses: Yahoo Finance. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. Trends, selling patterns, where you're at in your portfolios, all available to you with a community of over 90 million users each month, and their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. We're better when we work together. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. It's the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Thank you again to my everydayers out there. Shout outs to all of you making us your first listen of the day. Make sure you're checking out the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show, firing off your Rockies hot takes. Let me know what's on your mind. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming program for you, channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest storylines without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, a reminder too, all your Rockies action all season long available on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. Just search Colorado Rockies. So the Rockies get swept by the Giants. The Giants outscored the Rockies by a lot, and we kind of got back to the Rockies baseball that we were used to, with a couple of exceptions. I still think that even with the sweep, even with the lopsided numbers, this is just a terrible matchup for the Rockies. There's still life. There's still, you can see the effects a little bit of the winning streak with the Rockies. You can still see that the pulse is there with this club. They just got to make it more consistent. What we talked about too during the winning streak and on Friday, now the winning streak is over. Now you just got swept on the road against a divisional opponent. You just had another a tough stretch. How do you respond? You got a matchup that you can win against the Athletics here, even on the road, and then you return back home for a road trip. How do the Rockies respond? That is, I think, actually a really, really good point here, or a really good benchmark for us to be looking at this. Okay, 7-game win streak. You impressed. You beat 2 solid teams, back-to-back sweeps. You did some stuff that the Rockies haven't done in a while. Now you got an opportunity to make this a winning California road trip against the Athletics. Got to win this series. And then after that, you're in for a gauntlet. You got a gauntlet, 3 straight series in a row where the Rockies are going to be incredibly tested, especially on offense and at Coors Field, because it's Phillies, it's Guardians, and then we see the Dodgers for the first time. So if you're the Rockies, this series right here is the difference between a solid May, a much better May with a solid win streak with a couple of series wins, or completely wiping out the good feelings, the good vibes, the good momentum of this winning streak, because those are 3 really good teams that the Rockies got to face. You got arguably the best team in baseball so far coming to town in the Philadelphia Phillies. You have the Cleveland Guardians that got really great pitching, and then of course the Dodgers. And the Guardians got people that are coming up, are hitting tanks with no batting gloves on. So they're a fun team too. So this series against the Athletics, you got to be sharp, and you got to show that you've taken steps up and are able to compete with some of these teams and throw haymakers. You take down the World Series champs at home. Well, why not take on the team that keeps hanging on, or keeps making it to the NLCS or the World Series as well, and mixed in with a really solid AL team that you don't see much before prepping yourself for your first series against the Dodgers. So the schedule, as most of the season, has not been kind going forward. But if the Rockies are going to be successful in this series against Oakland, or any series in general, they have to be much better when it comes to driving in runners in scoring position here, especially. The Rockies in that game, the first game there, the 5-10 loss, 4 for 13 with runners in scoring position. So scoring opportunities in that ball game, in game 2 for the series here, where the Rockies lose 14-4 in that series. The Rockies were 3 for 14 when it came to runners in scoring position. And then in that finale there, with in the last game there, the Rockies were 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position, with multiple chances to get back into this game, especially late. I mean, that was one of the things that was hyper frustrating about this series. In the winning streak, the Rockies, when they had opportunities, were cashing in. They did not do that against San Francisco. They weren't driving runs in, and they had a lot of unproductive outs there. The strikeouts weren't necessarily the biggest problem in the first game, but it's still a moment where this team strikes out 7 times in the first game against the Giants. And then let's go to game number 2 against the Giants here in that series. The Rockies then strike out another 10 times in that series. And the strikeouts are just coming at the worst time, in the least productive outs that you can possibly have. And then in the finale, Rockies actually don't strike out too much. They're only 5 strikeouts. So not the biggest problem, but when the strikeouts were happening, they were happening at the worst possible times. You're not going to beat the best teams in baseball, and you're not going to beat the Giants on the road when you're not converting and capitalizing with runners in scoring position. And that was key. I mean, they were just the Rockies also got a little unlucky with some stuff. I personally I really liked the challenge by Bud Black on the Beck foul ball that I think wasn't a foul ball. I think there was enough there. Man, the Rockies have just gotten no benefit of the doubt on replay challenges. When you need the ball to bounce your way, when you need to get a little lucky, the Rockies have just not been lucky. And it's kind of unfortunate when you have that type of situation. So it's you can't base it just on luck. You can't rely on that. But sometimes, especially with baseball, you just need to get something and it just seems like every time the Rockies have replayed or challenged, they have a really solid case, but it just has not panned out or not paid off. And that Beck foul ball would have been a crucial point in that game as well, and a key spot where that momentum could have shifted late in that ball game. I believe that was the Saturday game before things got way out of control in the Saturday game, if I'm remembering correctly. But no lost feelings for me. I don't mind the fact that the Rockies aren't going to be playing this Giants team until after the All-Star break. Such a weird team, and a team that's going to get better as the season goes on when they get healthy again. I mean, the frustrating part, I think, with this one too, with the Rockies and their struggles in this series and the opportunities that they had, at least in the finale, and how they started game one, is this is a Giants team that was very vulnerable. This was a Giants team far from 100%, Giants team far from in a good place. But when it's just a bummer, there's too many teams that look and see and at the Rockies as that's the get right series, because man, the bats got going for San Francisco. The runs were scoring. The offense was aplenty for San Francisco in that series, and I hate the Rockies can't just keep being the get right team for teams. They obviously had the nice stretch, but throughout the rest of the season, that's what it seemed like. The Rockies have played teams that were struggling, teams that have banged up a little bit, and they're still able to handle their business. So for me, this road trip is a daunting one, but it will obviously be successful if you can come back with 2 out of 3 series wins and pull off at least a series win against Oakland. You're feeling pretty good about yourself there as well. The pill is a little easier to swallow, and you're feeling a little bit more confident about taking on Cleveland and Philly at home versus going to their respective ballparks. So again, response. How do the Rockies respond to being swept? How do the Rockies respond? How do the Rockies get back to playing their better baseball? How do they get back to recapturing that momentum, that energy from the winning streak, and start it over, start anew, start translating it back into their game and getting themselves ready to go against the Oakland Athletics? We shall see. I mean, that's one of that'll be a big story to watch this week throughout these games here. How do the Rockies respond? How do the Rockies handle a team that is not that good? I mean, when you're looking at the schedule for the Rockies, as we often do, this is outside of the Marlins and the Pirates, this is the first or one of the few non-playoff caliber teams that the Rockies have played this year. And when you're talking about performance-wise, there's only the Marlins have been a team that's fared worse this season than the Rockies and the Athletics there. So the Marlins swept Colorado. Yes, it was in Miami, but the last time the Rockies went on the road on a series against a team they should have beat, it didn't go well for them. So it has to be better. The Rockies they have to be better. They have to show that they can handle and snap this losing streak. Just like this, it can't keep being winning streak, long losing streak with a couple of wins peppered in. You got to make it consistent where, all right, you got swept there, win the next series. And I think the Rockies still can win it. We'll take a look at some of the starters and take a look at what's ahead for the Rockies here when it comes to Oakland. We'll be doing that and more coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we get to that, though, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes our friends at LinkedIn. You know about LinkedIn. LinkedIn's got you covered for just about everything. Sorry, I'm looking for here we go. I got all my little overlays there. So I got my LinkedIn there at the bottom. So I got all the details for you available on the screen. But if you're struggling to close deals, B2B selling is tougher than ever. And that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals, and shows you hidden allies so you know that you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date, first-party data enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon to get started. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are indeed free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. We are indeed on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel where you, yes, you out there can be part of the show. Let me know in the comments below. What do you want to see for the Rockies here against the Athletics? What are you hoping to see for the Rockies against the Athletics here? Keeping our eyes as well. Elias Diaz has not been in the lineup. We saw Hunter Goodman catch for the first time. Something that's going to be keep your eye on there, especially as they're looking to make ways for Goodman to get on the field if he's going to be a catcher. And if they keep sticking with Stallings, it could be really interesting now if they like what they're seeing from Goodman. If Elias Diaz becomes some sort of a trade chip there towards the middle of the season, towards the trade deadline, could be interesting to see if the Rockies do decide to go with Stallings and Hunter Goodman as the catchers there. Drew Romo, of course, waiting in the wings as well. But it was interesting to see as the broadcast was talking about how if Goodman goes back down to the minors, he might do some more catching, and then he ends up making his first start for the Rockies behind the dish there in that series. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch there as well. And Nolan Jones, Chris Bryant, it seems like the return is there. It didn't happen this weekend, but I'm assuming it's going to be happening this week real soon. So the lineup going to get a shakeup there. And we talked all about on Friday the Chris Bryant conundrum for the Rockies. But Nolan Jones also has to come in and start making a splash too. We need to see him bounce back from this as well. We need to see him bounce back from the adversity that he's faced this season as well. Realistically, what we need to see in this series is just a bounce back. We need to see good baseball from the Rockies. We need to see winning baseball from the Rockies. We need to see this team play like we know it's capable of playing. It's got elite level defense, and it's got pitchers that if their stuff is on, if they're able to hit their spots and they're able to do their job, they'll keep you in ball games. They'll keep you in ball games and they'll keep it close. It's got to come to the offense, bringing a better approach to the dish and being able to take advantage of a weaker team and a weaker pitching staff. This isn't going to be the best in the business that we've seen, but we do know what's one thing for true. If it's a one-run ball game, if it's a two-run ball game and late in the game, the A's are going to call out that guy that can come out and throw 108 out of the bullpen. And you're not hitting that guy. So the Rockies have to score first. The Rockies have to score early. What was encouraging before things fell apart was, man, San Francisco, Rockies, first inning, wham! There's that haymaker, there's that punch. But so many times with the Rockies, it was, all right, there's that moment, 12 batters in a row sat down. 9 batters sat in a row. Can't have that, especially not against Oakland here. You got to go out and you got to not chase, but you got to be better. And you got to handle business. It's right now the A's are favored in this matchup here, and they're going up against a pitcher that doesn't have a ton of experience, at least this season so far here. Only 7 innings pitched for Aaron Brooks, the scheduled starter for the A's tomorrow. But the Rockies statistically are better in some ways. One thing that's got to be that the Rockies got to be careful for here is the A's can hit home runs. The A's are a team that's got power and thump in their bat. I mean, the Rockies and Athletics got similar slugging numbers, but this the home run numbers, the Rockies have been out home runned by the Oakland Athletics by 21. So I mean, that's a pretty that difference could be crucial. That could change. That could be the difference in the game here between some of the for these two teams here as well. And another thing here, the Oakland's looking to get right too. Oakland is on a 5-game losing streak at least here. At least lost their last 5. Let me see what else here. No, that losing streak is longer than that. They have lost now back-to-back series, the Oakland Athletics, and they have not won since May 11th against Seattle. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, sorry. Woo, sneeze attack right there. So yeah, they got a long losing streak. Just basically as long as the Rockies were winning, the A's were losing. A little more in the middle there. So the A's looking to get right there. So got a chance. You're going against the struggling team. You just had your hot streak. You got your best pitchers. The stage is set for the Rockies to go out and get a win here against Oakland. Man, no game today though. That'll be tomorrow's game, and that'll be a 7:40 first pitch. We'll take a look more at the pitching matchups and take a look at comparing some more of the players here in this series between these two powerhouse matchup teams coming up on the next episode of Locked On Rockies. We'll bring that all for you, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today. More Rockies talk all week long. Be sure to follow along on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel and your favorite streaming services. Locked On MLB's got you covered. And man, I wish I didn't have to say it like this, but for all your postseason wrap-up as the season ends for both the Avs and the Nuggets, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets got you covered. And if you're gearing up for football season, Locked On Buffs and Locked On Broncos got you covered there. I got you covered when it comes to baseball, Rockies baseball especially. This is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.